Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome to all the devotees for this exclusive question answer session. I shall be taking up questions which you can post on live chat. I already have some questions from the previous session, and after that I will take up the questions you post on the live chat. Here's today's first question. How to understand and benefit from the knowledge that the Lord resides in every atom of material existence? This is described in the scriptures, how the Lord in his Paramatma feature is all-pervading. All-pervading means present everywhere. The Lord in his Paramatma feature has entered into the heart of every living being in all species of life. And he also has entered into every material atom. So that is the all-pervading nature of the Supreme Lord in this material world. So, what is the benefit of having this, understanding this point or having this knowledge, that we don't have to go searching for the Lord in some remote place, some far off place. No, Lord is right in our heart, very, very close to us. And also he is everywhere. This material world is made up of the material energy in the form of shape of so many objects, material objects. In every object, there are so many atoms, and inside each atom, the Lord is present. So the Lord is present everywhere. You should just learn how to invoke his presence wherever we may be. Just like when we chant Hare Krishna by vibrating our tongue, the Lord appears on our tongue in the form of transcendental sound. So like that, we should learn this technique. This, just like when Prahlad was asked, where is your Lord? By Hiranyakashipu, in a challenging way. Prahlad said, Lord is everywhere. Then Hiranyakashipu, as if to disprove Prahlad, he said, is he in this pillar? Prahlad said, yes, he is also in the pillar. Why not? So then he struck his fist to that pillar, and out of the pillar, the Supreme Lord appeared as Narasimha, just to keep the words of his devotee Prahlad intact. The Lord appeared. Of course, the Lord is not obliged to appear for a demon like Hiranyakashipu, but he simply appeared for the sake of his devotee Prahlad. So in any case, this proves that the Lord is present everywhere. That's a fact. Next question. Should we strictly avoid the association of non-devotees? Yes. Why should we avoid the association of non-devotees? Because it is the association which is the basis of developing desires. This is the statement of the Bhagavad Gita. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. Desires are developed in a particular type of association. So non-devotees do not have any spiritual desires. They have only material desires. So we pick up those material desires and we become materially contaminated. Therefore, we should avoid the association with non-devotees. If we are interested in spiritual life, in spiritual advancement, we should avoid non-devotees association. Not only avoiding non-devotees association, we should also positively associate with devotees. We require devotee association. Next question. After reading all books of Srila Prabhupada, biographies, letters, and conversations once, what should I read next? Can I read a book which interests me the most? Actually, after one reading of Prabhupada's books, you should begin study of three specific scriptures. Study of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, study of Srimad Bhagavatam, and study of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. These three books are specially meant for understanding the science of God, getting the knowledge of the love of God and intensifying that love of God. Specifically, these three scriptures are there. So therefore, study these scriptures nicely. Unless we become thorough with these explanations in these three scriptures, our advancement will not be very much smooth on this path of Krishna consciousness. Because whatever is there in these books clearly explains to us the entire science of Krishna consciousness, very nicely explained by Prabhupada in a way that we can easily understand. For us, Sanskrit is not easy to understand. And even if somebody were to understand Sanskrit, still they have to hear the explanation of the Acharya, the current Acharya. So therefore, even for those who know Sanskrit, they should hear from Prabhupada the explanations of the scriptural subject matter. Next question, what is the difference between samipya mukti and personal associates in Goloka Vrindavan? Now, samipya mukti means becoming an associate of the Lord. That's the meaning of samipya mukti. Now, samipya mukti as one type of liberation is awarded by the Lord to his devotees. Awarded by the Lord to his devotees. And that depends on the devotees' devotional service. Now, among the personal associates of the Lord, either in Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavana, there are two categories of such personal associates. Those personal associates who belong to the category of internal potency of the Lord, they are actually not jiva. They don't belong to the category of jiva souls. So they never fall down. They never have the propensity to lord over. They are eternally the Lord's associates and they are eternally serving the Lord, and there is no question of deviation for them. Whereas a jiva has got a tiny free will which the jiva can misuse and turn away from the Lord. and come into material existence. So coming to material existence happens only for jiva souls, living entities, who belong to the marginal potency of the Lord. Whereas the eternal companions of the Supreme Lord are always eternally situated in the spiritual world in full Krishna consciousness, engaged always in serving the Supreme Lord like that. So when it says here that somebody gets the samipya mukti or liberation of becoming one of the associates of the Lord, it applies only to jivas. And that too for jivas who are presently in the material world, who are conditioned souls. For them it applies. For liberated souls, either of the category, it does not apply. Next question, does sacrifice and charity mean the same? No. Sacrifice is called yajna, charity is called dana. There are three principal ways in which pious activities can be done as recommended in the Shastra. Yajna, dana, tapa. Yajna, dana, tapa. Yajna means sacrifice. Dana means charity. Tapa means austerity. So there are different recommendations. Some recommendations fall in the category of somebody should do a particular type of sacrifice. And some recommendations are one should give charity to certain select persons. And third recommendation is one should actually perform specific austerities. In all cases, the object of sacrifice is always the Supreme Personality of God, Vishnu. And through sacrifice, one is meant to satisfy Vishnu. Dana, charity, is given only to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Or one can give dana to the Supreme Lord directly. That is also dana. And yajna. Yajna means to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu by offering him sacrifice for his pleasure. And in all such sacrifices, the chief beneficiary is the Supreme Lord Krishna. Now, the result of performing a sacrifice may be different for different people. But the principle of performing sacrifice in order to please the Lord is a standard way of actually making progress in either karma yoga or jnana yoga or ashtanga yoga or bhakti yoga. It's common. Next question. Why are 12 mahajanas not part of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya consisting of 32 Acharyas? Now please understand, the 12 mahajanas are ideal devotees of the Supreme Lord, specifically mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Whereas the Acharyas, they are coming in this parampara system in order to disseminate spiritual knowledge and teach the method of executing devotional service according to the time, place, circumstances. So, the Acharyas are teaching by their own example. They come in a specific parampara. And when we say parampara, it specifically refers to the current Acharya who is his guru, and that previous Acharya who is his guru. Like that, it is to be traced back to Krishna. Whereas the mahajanas, they are pure devotees, eternally perfect. They are always engaged in devotional service of the Lord. So they are of a different category, not like any other jiva. They are in different category. They are never conditioned in this material world. Even when they come to the material world, they don't become entangled. They are always liberated. Next question. Some devotees in kirtan chant Hare Ramo instead of Hare Rama. Is this correct? Now you see, one should not make mistake in pronunciation. Hare Rama should be pronounced as Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Or Hare Hare, like that. But in what happens in Bengali pronunciation, even though the word is written as Rama, they pronounce it as Ramo. And that is true for so many other words also. Like Krishna is pronounced as Krishna. That O is a little prominent in those who speak native Bengali. So if naturally they are inclined to pronounce Krishna as Krishna or Rama as Ramo, there is no mistake considered in their chanting. But if somebody who's not speaking Bengali, who's not naturally speaking Bengali way, for them to say Hare Ramo is not necessary, it's not correct, it's not good, it's not proper. Next question. How did Mahabharata manifest? Was it simultaneously written by Vyasadeva or after the whole Mahabharata actually completed? Okay. As a scripture, Mahabharata is compiled by Vyasadeva. Vyasa means the post of one who records incidents as they occur. Now, the great sages who are compiling historical incidents, they could foresee some future events, and they may put it in the scriptures, or they can even see the past. Such rishis or great saintly persons are called Trikalagya. They can see the past, they can see the future, and they are able to see even the present. So such rishis are engaged in welfare activity for the people in general in compiling the Vedic literature also. So when such a person actually who is able to see the past, present and future sits down for compiling some scripture for the sake of the welfare of the humanity, then it doesn't matter whether the events are already over or the events are going to happen in the future or events are currently going on. It does not matter at all for such great saintly persons. So the next part of the same question, when did Vyasadeva approach Sri Ganesha for writing the Mahabharata? When he wanted to compile the Mahabharata, he approached Ganesha, that's all. But when he's sitting and compiling or when he's dictating, he can see the past, present, and future, and he has selected the events connected with the specific history of the life of the Pandavas, who are great devotees of Krishna. So their history is detailed in the Mahabharata, and in the details many different references are made to different earlier times and like that. The whole history is given in a very elaborate way. in that presentation of the Mahabharata with Vyasadeva. Next question. Sometimes Vaishnavas have to visit demigod temples, but as Vaishnavas do not do idol worship, so how to understand that the respective demigod also incarnate into an idol, making it a deity, so that when we worship or pay obeisance, it is going the right way and reaching to the respective demigod. Now you see the difference between idol and deity. Let me explain this first. Then we will go to the question, specific question here. Idol means an imaginary form, which is not a real person. It's simply a statue, that's all. This idol worship is done by the atheists, the agnostics, the Mayavadis, the philosophers who are atheistic like that. Because they say, the impersonalists at least say, God is formless, and therefore any imaginary form of God, before we can realize or we can perceive the formless absolute truth, that is welcome for them. So they imagine some form, and they think you can imagine any form you like, but that is not anywhere given in the scriptures, that you can imagine any form you like and worship that form or meditate on that form or think of that form or bow down to that form or offer respect to that form, imaginary form. No, there is no such description anywhere in the entire Vedas that you can imagine a form, can concoct a form. No, nowhere it is said like that. Deity means it is an authorized form of God in material elements, which is prepared or fabricated or made from certain elements, just like from marble or stone, a deity is carved out, or a metal is melted and a deity is cast into a certain definite shape. So like this, deities are actually real form of God. When we worship as devotees or Vaishnavas, we always worship deity, which means that if we offer deity a flower, it is exactly like directly offering a flower to Krishna, Sakshat Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we pray to the deity hears our prayers and responds to those prayers. So deity and idol are completely different, and Vaishnavas do not do idol worship. That's a fact. We don't worship any imaginary form of God or demigods even. Of course, we don't worship demigods at all. But if somebody wants to worship a devata, then they may have a form of that devata as authorized in the scriptures. And such authorized form of the devata, like Ganesha, for example. Yesterday was Ganesh Chaturthi, annual worship of Ganesha festival annually held throughout the country or nowadays throughout the world. So Ganesha is worshipped in the form of a deity. So that deity is installed. That means Lord is Ganesha is invited to come and reside in that form and accept the worship, accept the paraphernalia, accept the eatables, accept the prayers, accept the respects offered, etc. like that. So if a devotee of Vishnu goes to a temple of a devata, then we bow down and offer respect to the devata as a devotee of Vishnu. All demigods are devotees of Vishnu. Vishnu bhaktas smrito daiva asurastad viparyayaha. One whose divine nature is called a deva or devata, and such a person is necessarily a Vishnu bhakta. That means there are 33 crore demigods in our universe. All of them, without exception, are devotees of Vishnu. So this we have to remember all this. So a Vaishnava or a devotee of Vishnu always offers respects to other devotees of Vishnu, including the devatas. Next question. Please clarify if fruit should be offered to the Lord before or after cutting. Fruit should be offered to the Lord after cutting it and properly placing in a plate. Fruit should not be offered before cutting. No. Next question. In 4th canto, Dhruva Maharaja kills the yakshas. Swayambhuva Manu corrects him for doing the mistake of killing yakshas who are not responsible for brother's death. There is also a pastime of Nila Alwar, where the Alwar kills people for not being devotees of Vishnu. When asked whether the person is a devotee or not, how to understand that pure devotee's killing is wrong and one pure devotee's killing is wrong and other pure devotee's killing is all right? Now, pure devotees, whatever activities they do, they are under the protection and shelter of the internal potency of the Lord. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita. So, such protection of the Supreme Lord is always there for his pure devotees. So the pure devotee's action or actions sometimes may appear to be incorrect, just like in the case of Dhruva killing the yakshas. But it is never that pure devotees perform any activity independently. They do it only after receiving inspiration from the Supreme Lord externally. So therefore, we cannot understand these activities and justify them or try to give a logical reason for such activities. We accept the descriptions or the explanations in the Shastras, and we actually follow the Shastric injunctions for doing all our devotional activities. So I do not know the specific pastime of some Nila Alwar who killed people who are not devotees of Vishnu. But in any case, just like Arjuna killed so many Kshatriyas on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But by Arjuna killing, the effect is the same as Krishna killing, because both are on the absolute plane. There is never any damage done by Arjuna killing a Kshatriya. That Kshatriya is definitely delivered from this material existence because of being killed by a pure devotee. Next question, what is wrong if a pure devotee kills other living entities? Won't they benefit from such an act? As pure devotees' acts are free from reactions. The living entity who is killed by a pure devotee definitely benefits. But pure devotees don't have to kill, they can even bless. They can preach, they can purify. You see? So what pure devotees do, we cannot comment on that. But they are simply working for the mission of the Lord in this material world. That's for sure. Next question. Grahastha should donate 50% of salary. So how can we utilize 50% of our salary? Should we donate Bhagavad Gita or Prasaram to poor people? Is this right approach? Can you please highlight? Okay, one by one. Here the first point is Grahastha should donate 50% of salary. That is the recommendation of Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, who follow the proper spiritual injunctions given by the Acharyas. Now, to give 50% of one's income to Supreme Lord Vishnu is the highest standard for a Grahastha who is following the instructions of Srila Rupa Goswami, the Acharya in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. But it doesn't say that everyone must give. It is recommended for their own good, for their own welfare. So therefore, it should not be taken like a dictate from either the Acharya or from the scriptures. No, it should not be taken like that. If you can donate 50% and maintain your family with the remaining 50%, that's fine. If you cannot, then you are not compelled to give 50% of your salary for Krishna consciousness. Should we donate Bhagavad Gita or Prasadam to poor people? Now, it is not a question of only helping poor people that is important for a devotee. Devotee wants to help whoever is spiritually poor, spiritually impoverished. Materially somebody is poor or materially somebody is rich, that is not so important for us. As devotees of preaching Krishna consciousness, we seek always to approach people from the spiritual perspective. We don't discriminate between materially rich and materially poor people. For us, all those who are bereft of spiritual knowledge are poor-hearted people. Whether they are materially rich or materially poor, it doesn't matter. Next question. If the soul has a form, then why is it given a body by Krishna? Soul has spiritual form, and we are given a material body because we want to enjoy materially. We want to lord over material nature. Therefore, we are given a material body. And this material body covers the spiritual body. That's also explained. The next part of this question, why does he need another body in the spiritual world? There is no need of any kind of body in the spiritual world. We are spirit soul. We are a spiritual form. Spirit soul means spiritual form. So we don't have to acquire any kind of spiritual body, either in the material world or in the spiritual world. No. Next part of the question. Next question. What is an interpretation of Gita? What consists of an interpretation? Interpretation means one does not receive the knowledge of Gita, the understanding of Gita in the parampara system. Then such a person if that person writes a book or speaks on the Gita, such a person will only interpret and give some concocted meaning of the Gita, verses of the Gita. A very good example is there are some people who translate the Bhagavad Gita where they describe the five Pandavas as the five senses of the human being, and the battle of Kurukshetra as the conflict in the mind of a person between good and evil. The good Pandavas represent the good and Kauravas represent the evil. So all these are interpretations. Is as it is 1972 edition an interpretation? No, it's not an interpretation. It is actually the as it is means it is Prabhupada is giving us whatever knowledge he has received without any alteration, without any change. As it is, he is giving us the knowledge. Next question. In the course of daily work in my office, I have to get angry sometimes for some reasons. Is this okay? Now, getting angry in a controlled way to get some work done is not at all wrong. It is only anger which is uncontrolled is dangerous. May lead to so many complications. Next question. How to be sure that at the time of death I'll be able to think of Krishna or not? You can be sure if you practice thinking of Krishna or remembering Krishna or chanting Hare Krishna always. Now. So you have to practice that now. Krishna says, you practice now and you will surely think of me at the time of death. I'll give you remembrance, Krishna says. So Krishna's assurance is there for us to get help for remembering him at the time of death. So Krishna helps somebody to remember him at the time of death. If they have, before death comes, if they have practiced very sincerely remembering Krishna always. Next question. How to use the Vishvarupa pastime of Krishna in Gita be emphasized in our preaching? You don't have to necessarily emphasize any part of the Gita when you preach. All parts of the Gita are equally beneficial for people. The special thing about Vishvarupa being shown to Arjuna is Krishna wanted to explain to Arjuna that the spiritual form of the Lord is not perceived by the materialists or the speculators or the non-devotees. But nevertheless, those who are devotees of the Lord in this material world, they are very eager to see the two-handed form of Krishna, which is very, very rarely seen even by the greatest demigods. So in order to establish that, establish the fact that ultimately the Supreme Lord is two-handed. And he appears like a person who is an ordinary person of this world, but he has got mystic powers, he has got unlimited everything. So he is distinctly different from all jivas or all living beings. Next question. ISKCON comes under Jagadguru Madhvacharya lineage. Has Madhvacharya mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself? Please clarify. Now, Madhvacharya has not spoken about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but we get specific information of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from the different scriptures, standard scriptures. Madhvacharya lineage means the knowledge is handed down from Krishna to Brahma, Brahma to Narada, Narada to Vyasa, Vyasa to Madhvacharya. The knowledge is handed down, it is coming down perfectly. Very, very carefully it is handed down. So that's why this knowledge which is handed down should be passed on to the next generation after generation after generation. And that's what the Acharyas do in passing on the knowledge that is coming down for the future generations. That is the important aspect of parampara system. Just like Madhvacharya himself, he passed on the knowledge he received from Vyasadeva to the next generation. So that is the special thing about the Acharya coming in parampara. Next question, when one is having monthly menstruation, during that period, how to offer prepared food to Lord Krishna when no one else is there to offer it? Is it okay to do a mental offering and honor prasadam? You see now in this modern age, to follow some rules, specifically certain rules which were meant for being followed in a joint family system. We don't have joint family system. So there are so many rules which cannot be followed because of somebody being alone or somebody not having the joint family support for different practices to be correctly followed. So therefore, under such circumstances, yes, it is okay to do mental offering and honor prasad if you cannot do an offering according to scriptural direction. Next question. How to explain when someone asks that Radharani's position as she is married to someone else and is worshipped as consort of Krishna? Actually, Radharani is never married to anybody else. When Radharani is described as Parakiya Rasa relationship with Krishna, that is just to understand the specific type of loving exchange between Krishna and his topmost devotee in a particular type of relationship. Radharani has nobody else other than Krishna as her beloved, and Krishna exclusively reciprocates Radharani's love as much as he exclusively reciprocates every devotee's love, because Krishna is unlimited love. So Radharani is not married to anybody, but the description is Parakiya Rasa relationship is if a woman is married to a particular husband and if the woman has a relationship with someone else other than her husband, whom she has got a very deep loving relationship, that is called Parakiya relationship. So that is another way of describing, just like in our day-to-day life, ordinary life, a woman is married to some husband, but she actually treasures in her heart actually love for Krishna. So that is the kind of situation called parakiya in this world. It is not parakiya in the sense that a woman is neglecting her husband and or desiring someone else other than her husband. No, that is not the understanding. Now the example is given of this parakiya relationship, that if a woman who's very chaste wife, if she has got attraction and love for somebody other than her husband, then she will conduct her activities in relationship with her husband very, very carefully, so the husband will not suspect she is having any other relationship. At the same time, she'll always be thinking of her beloved other than her husband, and she'll always be looking for a chance, when can I meet my beloved? So in that way, the relationship is very, very, very strong, and it is very deep, and it is very, very, very intense loving relationship. So only to describe that it is given as an example. Otherwise, Radharani and all the gopis, they have no other lover. Only Krishna is their lover. That's all. They don't have any husband either. But for the sake of pastimes in this material world, the gopis appeared as someone who is daughter of some cowherd person and is married to some other person, like that. They appeared in the pastimes, but they actually have no one else as their lovers. They have no other relationship. Next question, what are the signs that material desires are no longer present in my heart? When there is no desire for personal sense gratification, when you have no desire to satisfy your own senses, then that is the absence of material desires. When you always desire to serve Krishna, when you always desire to please Krishna, when you always desire to satisfy Krishna's senses exclusively, then that means no material desires. Next question, what is the source of intuition? Higher modes or Krishna? Intuition, the source is Paramatma. Krishna is Paramatma in the heart. That is the source of intuition. Next question, how can we experience Krishna's love at our stage? It's very easy to experience Krishna's love even in the beginning of devotional service by even a neophyte. That Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am seated in everyone's heart and I am the source of your knowledge, remembrance and forgetfulness. So Krishna very kindly is seated in our heart, and he is active every moment for our welfare. He is our best well-wisher. He gives us the knowledge, specifically the knowledge, apart from giving us knowledge for our routine maintenance in this world, he also gives knowledge by which we can know him, realize him, and go back to him. So that is Krishna's mercy, kindness. He is the best well-wisher in that way. So he is active, and that is because he loves us. That's why he is active in our heart at every moment, always with us in this material world to guide us. That is a proof of love. Even though we are forgetful of Krishna, even though we turn away from Krishna, even though we don't care for Krishna, still, because he loves us, he nevertheless accompanies us and always works for our welfare. So that's why we say Krishna has love for us, therefore he does all this. Next question, is Krishna consciousness a religion or spirituality? Now, some people try to distinguish between religion and spirituality. But as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, there's no difference between religious principles given in the scriptures, which we have to follow, the scriptural injunctions, and the spirituality means understanding the spiritual nature, the spiritual reality, the spiritual truth. That is also part of Krishna consciousness only. So as devotees, we don't make a distinction between religion and spirituality. So some people do that. Next question, is it necessary to be afraid of death? It's not a question of whether it is necessary or not necessary. The fact is everyone is afraid of death. If Brahma is afraid of his death, what to speak of others? Everyone is afraid of his death. That is the nature of material existence. But if we become Krishna conscious and we take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, then we become fearless. Bhajahure mana Sri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charana Ravindari. Krishna's lotus feet are the source of all fearlessness for all the devotees. Next question, does our varna change with time? Can we belong to several varnas? No, varna doesn't change. When we are born with certain acquired nature, and that acquired nature we can be trained to perform certain specific occupational duties or activities for earning our livelihood or maintaining our body. But this Krishna conscious aspect of our life is, irrespective of what somebody's acquired nature may be, varna may be, the person can become a devotee of Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna and purifying the heart and becoming well established in Krishna consciousness. So that doesn't depend on occupational duty, or that does not need to be changed. Next question, does Krishna consciousness, while removing our conditioning, create its own set of conditionings that obstruct wisdom? No, Krishna consciousness doesn't mean conditioning. Krishna consciousness is actually awakening our dormant spiritual knowledge of Krishna himself and this world. So that knowledge which is covered by material contamination, when the material contamination in the heart is cleansed away, we become spiritually enlightened, and that enlightenment is experienced as knowledge from within about who we are, about ourselves, etc. Next question, when ethics and humanity can provide us direction, why do we need spirituality? Ethics and humanity can give us only direction for our material existence. It is totally useless for understanding the ultimate truth or reality about the self. So spirituality is necessary for knowing your real self, your true self as spirit soul, not the body. You belong to Krishna. All this is realized only by practicing spiritual life. You can realize the spiritual truth about yourself. Otherwise, you remain in ignorance. And all these ethics and morality or humanitarian considerations are all limited use within this lifetime, and that too for very specific purposes it is useful. It doesn't have any universal benefit, universal appeal, universal ramifications, no. Next question, do karmic actions and reactions happen at gross and subtle levels? Yes. There are always actions and reactions at both levels, gross level and subtle level. Do our present actions add to our destined pleasure or pain? No. None of what we do now add to our pleasure or pain now. They are for the future. They're always for the future. So now what we experience as pleasure or pain is due to our past pious or sinful activities. But what we are doing now is for our future. Next question, what's the difference between revelation and realization? Revelation means the Supreme Lord reveals us the knowledge from within the heart. That is revelation. Or even the spiritual master, while explaining some Krishna conscious topic, reveals to us the actual meaning or the correct understanding of some particular Vedic statement. So the spiritual master helps us get revelation. Now, realization is to perceive the reality, especially perceive the spiritual reality. It is just like with these eyes we can see certain material objects, but you cannot see God with these eyes. Neither you can perceive God with any other sense, with your ears, with your nose, with your tongue. You cannot perceive God, who is completely spiritual. And these material senses are meant for material understanding, material knowledge, material perception. So therefore, there is a need for what is called a spiritual realization. And that is possible by spiritual practice. You chant Hare Krishna, it's a transcendental vibration. And by chanting and hearing, you are able to experience what is that realization. Only when you experience it, you know what it is. Next question. How is Bhagavad Gita applicable for students? Krishna says in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, in a particular verse, I'll read that verse. 70th verse, 70 of the 18th chapter, almost towards the end of the Gita. Krishna says, Adhyeshyate cha ya imam dharmyam samvadamavayoho jnana yagnena tenaham ishtasyam iti me matihi. The meaning of the 70th verse of the 18th chapter of Gita, spoken by Krishna, is, and I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation worships me by his intelligence. So those who are students are engaged in studying some subjects. So along with that, if you study Bhagavad Gita, then you are worshipping Krishna by your intelligence. So therefore, all students should study Bhagavad Gita. Next question. Can we say Mahaprabhu's teachings are the culmination of all previous teachings? Yes, that's a fact. All previous teachings of the Acharyas, Vaishnava Acharyas. Because Mahaprabhu is giving the most effective method of self-realization. He's giving us the goal very clearly. He's stating the process of reaching that goal very, very simple way, direct way, and very clear way. Therefore, Mahaprabhu's teachings are the culmination of all previous teachings of the previous Acharyas, Vaishnava Acharyas. Does the word karma have different meanings in different contexts? Yes, definitely. Karma can mean work. Karma can mean good activities. Karma can mean the actions which have reactions. Karma can mean those activities which are binding us to the material world. So you have to see the context, and accordingly you have to understand the meaning of this word. Last question. As many Hindu temples don't allow non-Hindus to enter, is the Vedic tradition really inclusive? Now, when it says non-Hindu should not enter, it is because non-Hindus do not know how to respect the Supreme Lord who is worshipped in the temple. They don't know the rules of cleanliness. They may come and pollute the temple and commit offense and then suffer the consequences of committing the offense. Therefore, it is said, if you are a non-devotee, you do not know who is God, you do not know how to respect God, how to worship God, then you better don't enter. Of course, those who are interested and those who study and those who, even if they were born in some other family, but they become devotees of Krishna and they learn how to worship Krishna, how to offer obeisance to Krishna, they can be allowed to enter into the traditional temples also. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.